Since I graduated Judson in 2004, I moved to Washington, D.C., and I actually got a job at the Pentagon working for the Secretary of Defense. Washington is a special place and allows you to really expand your network. And through my work as a consultant, a political advisor, I've been able to meet a lot of powerful and influential people. I want to bring them right back to where it all started for me, Judson University. It was great to invite Mark to my alma mater, Judson, and for the audience in Herrick Chapel to see the real Mark Cuban. He has a great sense of humor, but he can also be serious at the same time. We've been friends for the last couple of years, and so I forget that he's Mark Cuban, and we just have this normal conversation between two friends. One of the things that I'm passionate about and I love about this new speaker series is that all proceeds fund diversity and entrepreneurship scholarships for students right here at Judson. I look forward to coming back with another powerful and influential person, and after Mark Cuban, you never know who it might be. Good evening. Today is November 2nd, 2020, and this is the 25th episode of New Paradigms. I am your special guest host, Mark Vargas, filling in tonight for Lieutenant Colonel Sargis Sangari, the Republican nominee for the United States House of Representatives in the 9th Congressional District here in Illinois. On this silver anniversary of the show, the 25th episode, and on the eve of the most historic and important election in our nation's history, I am going to interview Lieutenant Colonel Sangari and his family to give you, the viewers, an opportunity to get to know this wonderful family on a more personal level. But before I begin, I'd like to send a special shout out and thank you, Helen, and the children for your service to our country. The spouses and the children of the men and women that serve our country, you sacrifice a lot as well. And so we thank you and we salute you for your service as a family to this great country. Lieutenant Colonel Sangari's resume is very, very impressive. In fact, I could probably dedicate an entire show to his resume, but Lieutenant Colonel Sangari, U.S. Army retired, is a 20-plus year veteran of the United States Army Infantry and Special Operational Forces with multiple combat deployments to Iraq, a diplomatic assignment in Kuwait, and several other deployments in the Middle East, Europe, Asia, and Central America. His awards and decorations include the Combat Action Badge, Expert Infantryman's Badge, and Parachutist Badge, and he has many foreign awards. Lieutenant Colonel Sangari is a nuclear, biological, chemical certified officer, certified anti-terrorism level 1 and 2 officer, and he earned his executive certificate in counterterrorism and technology from the International Institute for Counterterrorism of the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya, Israel. Lieutenant Colonel Sangari resides in Skokie with his wife and his 4 children, his son Asher, his daughter Nineveh, his other daughter Attilia, and his very young son Sargon. Lieutenant Colonel Sangari, it's been a long, long campaign, and tonight is the eve of an important election, and so I'd like to welcome you and your family to this evening's very special episode. But I know before we get going, there's a lot of good people that you want to thank on this journey that have helped you, staff, volunteers, supporters. And so before we get into tonight's show, I want to give you the opportunity at the top of this hour to thank them personally. So Colonel Sangari and the family, welcome.
Mark, it's a pleasure to be here, buddy. It's a pleasure to be here. Much appreciated.
Good. Well, as I said before, there's a lot of people you want to thank on this campaign. It's been an interesting journey, to say the least, with the coronavirus. And so, Lieutenant Colonel Sangari, before we get into questions with your family, I know, again, at the top of the hour, I want to provide you an opportunity to personally thank all of those that have sacrificed a lot of time and hours to your campaign.
No, thank you very much, Mark. And truly, it's been a blessing. Individuals have come into our lives to help us ever since I filed on 3 September of 2019, and where we are today on the eve of an election, a historic election, as you said, which is going to show whether or not our country is going to be heading towards a capitalistic style of a government, or are we going to be selecting a socialist ideology that really has turned our country upside down to an extent and has pitted individuals against each other. Look, it's the individuals that have come into our lives, to include you, Mark, who have helped us, have been godsend. The fact that there's Americans out there from every aspect of life who are willing to take from their time to concentrate on this historical race is absolutely amazing. Majority of the donors that we have got to Mark have been retirees. These are individuals who really are not working. And even under COVID and some of the restrictions that they have faced, some of the losses that they have seen in the market, to include their businesses, they still wrote checks to try to get us to a point where we're going to be able to get to the finish line. And it's all because they want to make sure that we're able to represent their dreams and aspirations in the long run. I know you could be in much better places, Mark. I know I'm no Mark Cuban or General Petraeus, which you're going to be sitting on stage with next year in April. But it's a blessing that you have given us opportunity. I thought you were the right man for the 25th anniversary to interview us and talk to the family. And if I named all the men and women, I know I would miss one or two. So I could tell you from the folks that have made phone calls, even are making phone calls tonight for us. And the guys and gals who are really out there right now, still in line. And tonight we're going to be out probably till 2:30 in the morning, putting out yard signs at the various different polling places, and be ready to go again at 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. It's just absolutely blessing, and hopefully come tomorrow night, depending on what the voters have chosen, we'll be able to represent them in Congress.
Well, you have such a beautiful family there, and I can tell you, if President Trump were here right now, he'd say, what a very special, very beautiful family. Very beautiful. And so I know we've got some questions. I know a lot of people, this is their first time seeing all of you together. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity just to ask many of you questions. And again, I appreciate your willingness to come on camera this evening. It's not easy, but I know you're a wonderful family. And so, Helen, I'm going to start this off with you. And we all know I ran for Congress. I wasn't very successful, but I ran in the 14th Congressional District back in the 2010 cycle. So I know what it's like to run for office. It's not easy. There's a lot of highs, there's a lot of lows, a lot of good days, a lot of not so good days, and particularly with what's going on with the coronavirus and how this has changed our way of life temporarily. I just wanted to ask you, as you look back on this campaign, what are some things that you've learned in terms of the highs and the lows?
Well, thank you so much for having us. The highs and lows for us, honestly, was when we had to face a lot of the challenges like every family is. But for when we had to do run a campaign on top of it, makes it a little bit harder for us. But Sargis loved serving the country, and when he came and told me he wanted to run for office, I had concerns. I had concerns because of the political views and people have, and I was worried. I was worried for my family. I didn't want to be a target. I didn't want my children, my husband, my family be a target. Our nation is very much divided. But I know it was important for Sargis to run for office, and we as a family wanted to support him, and we did. So he's running, and we want to get he's a good candidate to run in Congress and make good changes, because what we're seeing in our street, in our cities, this is not where we want to be heading. So.
Well, you all have done a terrific job this campaign, and so my hat's off to each and every one of you. You know, Helen, you're a wife, a mother, a homeschool teacher, and a whole host of other titles. I'm kind of wondering, with all of what's been going on, what's a typical day like for you, and what's a typical day like in the Sangari household?
For us, well, starts at 4 o'clock. Sargis is up at 4 o'clock because that's when he can get most of the work done. Kids are still asleep, and he pretty much still running his campaign. So for me, it really starts at 7. I am up trying to get the kids up and running and breakfast ready. And they're all still doing e-learning, all 4 of them from home. The little one pretty much needs a full-time person sitting with him. I sit with him through the whole 4 to 6 hours, depending, with him. And the school day doesn't end till 3. And we still, at the same time, I still have to have lunches, snacks in between, manage the house, laundry, and dinner ready. And then in between, we have people stopping by for the campaign at all different times. So we have coffee, tea always running. And then when Sargis need me to go out with him on campaign, putting signs, yard signs in our district, and that can go from anywhere between 9 in the evening all the way to 1 to 2:30 in the morning, because that's when the traffic is slow, and we can put the signs up and then start the next day all over again. So it's a cycle. It just continues, and we're still here. So so it's very busy, very hectic, but it's good. It's a good hectic.
Very busy.
Yeah. It's a very good head. It is, and I don't think people realize how much work goes into running for office and the strain on a family, and not just the candidate. It's early mornings, it's late nights. I know that you've been out there with your husband 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, putting campaign signs out. I know Sargis is up at 4 o'clock in the morning, putting campaign signs out in the early morning. The children are without their father, sometimes their mother, because you're out on the campaign trail. And I think it's important to stress to everybody out there, the sacrifice that this family has made throughout the duration of this campaign is enormous. And so probably, when this is all over, whether you're a congressman-elect or not, I think you guys deserve to sleep for about 3 or 4 days. But I can't stress, as someone who's run for office myself, it is very taxing and exhausting. And then throw in the coronavirus and all of the challenges of all of your kids having to homeschool and help with their homework. And I know Sargis is campaigning, but he's helping with homework. I know you're trying to run the household and you're helping with homework. And so, again, this has just been an unprecedented time. And so, again, I thank all of you for all of your hard work and your continued service to our country, but this time in a different capacity. Now I'd like to ask the kids some questions, and I know that they're excited to talk here on camera, and hopefully you'll be able to share this to your friends at school, and you'll become very popular. But kids, this coronavirus has impacted children just like you across our entire state and across our country. You can't see your friends, you can't see your teachers. If you play sports, your sports have been postponed. And so I want to just ask each of you very briefly, how has this impacted you? Do you miss your friends? Do you miss your teachers? Do you miss school? And so I think perhaps, Nineveh, I'll start with you.
Okay, it has been very hard and sad to go through because we haven't been able to see our friends all summer, and we were really hoping that we could see our friends this school year, but because coronavirus and we were not able to go back in person, it's just been very hard experience to be with, and we want to see our friends and be in the building again.
I bet. Asher, you're 17. How has the coronavirus impacted you and hanging out with your friends and sports or activities? I don't want to say, do you miss school? But I'll ask that question anyways.
Well, yeah, I actually did miss school. there's so much stuff I've been missing out on because of Corona. I can't get my license. I can't travel to places with my Boy Scout troop. So I've been missing out on a lot. I am really ready for all of this to be over.
I bet, and that's something that we don't think about. You can't get your license. Maybe others can't get their permits. This impact is enormous in ways that many people don't understand, and perhaps I don't even think our governor, who was born with a silver ladle in his mouth, I don't think he understands the frustrations that everyday hardworking families are going through here in Illinois. And Italia, I'm going to ask you, Italia, and then Sargon, you're next, buddy. But Italia, what impact has this had for you? And I'm going to ask you again, do you miss your friends? Do you miss your teachers? Do you miss school?
It's pretty upsetting to me because I like going to school, so I do miss my friends and teachers a lot, but hopefully we can go back soon because, as Osher said, we are missing out on a lot of stuff, so I really hope that we can go back and everything can go back to normal soon.
We all do. And Sargon, buddy,
Yeah.
Do you miss school? Do you miss your teachers?
Yeah, I've been missing a lot. I've been wanting to meet my new classmates, but it's just not happening. But and I really want to learn new stuff, and I try my best every day to finish very quickly on school. And I miss all my friends and teachers.
Sargon, they could just put you in a commercial, and I think they'd quickly reopen the state. I think we got to put you on the campaign trail.
Writing candidate.
That's right, writing candidate. Sargon, you're my guy. Kids, I know that your dad makes you recite a couple of pledges. I've learned this. So tell me a little bit about that. People may not realize this, but I think there are 2 pledges, correct? Tell us what those pledges are.
Yes, there are 2 pledges that he makes us recite on our nightly and daily calendar scrubs that we have. I'll do the first one. It's you can never be trusted, counted on, or respected as a leader who can lead until you learn how to take good notes and follow up on those requirements in a timely fashion.
I love
And
it.
I'll do the second one.
Okay.
It's, you are from the neck up. You are what you see and hear, which drives what you're thinking about. And the second you act up on it or speak about it, it defines who you are.
It
love
worked.
that. It worked. It worked.
Yeah, they memorized it. That's outstanding.
It is. It is. And you guys are doing a terrific job. And I'm just going to ask one more question for you kids before we get to your dad. And so, Asher, why should people vote for your father?
My dad is extremely talented. He's extremely skilled. He knows what he's doing, and he will do whatever it takes to get this country back on track.
Excellent. Nineveh?
I gotta hire these guys as consultants. I can't believe this.
They're terrific. It's absolutely terrific. Nineveh, why should people vote for your father?
Well, from what I've seen and how he's able to manage all of us and everything, I think he'll do pretty good in office. So yeah, he'll do good if he can control all of us.
Well, he's good because he's got a wonderful wife in Helen. Yeah. That's why. Italia, why should people vote for your daddy?
I think people should vote for my dad because he loves serving the country, and he would be a great congressman.
Absolutely. And Sargon, last but not least, buddy, and you're doing a terrific job, but why should people vote for your daddy?
Because if he can manage 4 kids, he's been managing us ever since I was just 5, and
I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
You're doing well.
if he's able to take care of 4 kids for a very long time. He can deal with
with Congressman.
We can do it, Congress. That's true.
That's a great answer, Sargon. I love it. I love it. I think you've got a political future, buddy. I think you really do. And you all did a terrific job. And so now I'm going to turn it over to you, Sargis, and a couple of questions. Can you just provide us, again, this is the eve of one of the most historic election in our country's history. But would you, Sargis, be able to just provide us with a little campaign update and what's tomorrow looking like for you?
Yeah, look, campaigns moved to where it could be. I mean, we're going to work till the last minute, and then that's it. And look, the race wasn't just about 3 November. This race will go through 3 November. Regardless of what the numbers come in tomorrow, I mean, we're committed to serving the nation, and we got to do what we can to make sure it's headed in the right direction. Let's hope at the national level that, we have a clear winner. And then in that process that the nation gets on track and focuses on fixing a lot of internal issues that we have to resolve over the next 4 years. We've gotten a lot of the endorsements out there from the FOP, Fraternal Order of Police endorsing us and actually coming out and helping us to get the knock on doors and we get the brochures out that we have on the campaign to include U.S. impact, specifically from the Indian community, the Korean community, Korean Times, Korean Daily, the Serbian Times, Serbian community, the Filipino pastors, the Hispanic pastors, and across the board, a lot of these ethnic communities that came out and supported us, the Polish community, and I will tell you, most importantly, of course, my community. My community for the longest time has never had a voice in American politics. When you have the one individual out of 331 million Americans in our country who's an Assyrian running for Congress, it's very significant. So there's folks that never voted before have gone out and voted, especially in these difficult times. And as you heard what the kids were saying, Dad does listen to the kids. And the first priority is going to be, regardless of how we go through this, we got to get this whole COVID thing under control. And then from there, we got to get the economy up and running. When the mayor of Lincolnwood endorsed me, he didn't come here talking just on his own behalf. He came talking on everybody else's behalf. I've already had sat in on meetings with the Chamber of Commerce who have invited me because they want to make sure there's a transitional process of us finally getting work done. November 3rd, I have the good fortune with God's blessings to be the congressman-elect for the 9th Congressional District. I got to start working. And November 4th, we're going to go out there, thank some of the folks that have helped us and start meeting with the communities and start focusing on what we have to do to meet their needs. I want to thank even the Northwestern University that came out and interviewed me, the Niles North High School civic class. We got some talented young men and women out there who interviewed me recently. I got to tell you, they asked some hard questions, harder than what the most newspaper folks ask. And one of the young ladies even made us, fact check me on the spot and made a correction on an issue, which is, the way you should do it.
I wish they did that with Biden.
Yeah, that's okay. I tell them, ask tough questions of your leaders, because look, at the end of the day is their future. The world was much easier for you and me, Mark, to be honest. We lived in easier times. Today's world is very difficult, especially for the next generation. And, I tell these guys, one day mom and dad are not going to be here. We're going to be gone. That's just the reality of life. Count your blessings every here, but, hopefully the little things that we taught them, the lessons in life are going to be what is going to take them through. After hearing Helen kind of lay out everything she goes through the day, sometimes when you're running for Congress, you completely miss these things, we're in the fight. Let's see what happens at the end. It's a team effort, and I think Americans at the end of the day will understand that preserving this nation, this democracy is important. And as I told the high school students, it starts with the Declaration of Independence, which laid out the philosophy behind why we do what we do. And if you don't understand the Declaration of Independence, you'll never understand the Constitution. So with that said, I think we're on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. This is going to be an important election for so many reasons, and this is going to be an election about lawlessness and looting versus law and order. And it is important that you got that endorsement from the Chicago FOP, have been so active, and we support our police. We back the blue. And Sargis, I know that you've been there at as many Back the Blue rallies as you could fit in your schedule. So I want to thank you for your support, very public support of our police officers at a time when they need that support, when they need to know that people support them. And so this is going to be an important election. Again, lawlessness and looting or law and order, socialism or capitalism and prosperity. And, President Trump has campaigned on promises made, promises kept. And I think we've seen an entire record of the last 3.5 years that he's fulfilled those campaign promises. He's a new kind of politician. And I think, Sargis, you're a new kind of elected. You'd be a new kind of politician. You're not controlled by special interests. You're not the party's candidate. You're the people's candidate. And I think that's very, very powerful. As we get ready to kind of close here, Helen, I'm going to offer you one last opportunity just to share with people why people ought to vote for your husband and to send him to Congress. I'm going to give you your final closing argument.
Okay. Because he's a good candidate. He's a good person. He really works hard. He loves our nation. He served it in military, and now he wants to continue and serve our community. And a vote for him, you would not be sorry. He loves this country, and he wants to serve and continue to serve our nation that he loves. And I'm proud of him. So, thank you.
And again, to your family and to you, Helen, thank you for your service to our country and how you've supported Sargis throughout his career here in the military. Sargis, I'm going to toss this over to you here. Here is your closing argument to the constituents here in the congressional district. Why should they, if they haven't already voted, or if they go to the polls tomorrow, why should they vote for you and send you to Washington to be their next congressman during these very critical times?
Well, Mark, thanks again. First of all, they have to vote. You got to get out there and vote. We know what happened in the last presidential election, or I should say in the historical presidential election, where 500 votes really kind of swayed which way Florida went. And I tell folks, if we win on 3 November, everybody will be excited. If, let's say, we come up short and we don't win, the person who voted at least has done their job. They can say, I voted, I did my job. You don't want it to be the person who has to look your friends in the eyes and they say, you had an opportunity after 75 years of having one political party control the 9th congressional district to make a change, to send somebody of color who came here as an immigrant, couldn't speak any English. I didn't even know what no or yes meant. Literally, you'd be speaking an alien language to me. I applied myself, got the highest score in the Constitution test, which to me was a matter of pride. Again, I learned the basics and the foundation of what our nation was about. And I spent 20 plus years in the military. I told the high schoolers just last time I talked to them, I said, you know what? There's a philosophy behind why you dress up the way you do, why you have your hair the way you have it, and the freedoms that are afforded to you. Well, the philosophy that I was raised with and the love of the nation that my mom and dad gave me and taught me is what I took to heart. And that's why I went to the military. And in the military, I gave up, how I dressed, how I talked, because the military tells you, you got to dress this way, you got to have this type of a haircut, you have to get up at this time, you have to eat at this time, you have to go to war at this time, you have to sleep at this time. And I gave all that up for 20 years so that you would have the right to be able to live the type of a life you want in freedom. And now when I came back and I saw what is happening within my country, I don't want to see the sacrifice of my friends made on the battlefield to be where my nation is tearing itself apart, burning and looting its cities, destroying its history, killing each other on the south side of Chicago. This is not what we went to war for. This is not why I left my family and kids. And as Helen said, she had no clue if I was even going to come back. I remember my first tour after all the IEDs I went through. I wrote a letter to my brother and I said, look, if something happens to me, make sure Helen gets married, because Osher's going to need a dad to raise him. Because when I was here, my formative teen years, my dad wasn't able to be with us because he had to sell everything that we had back home. And it took a long time for him to be able to leave just to get here. So with all that said, you have a guy running now. You have an opportunity to make a change. You don't want to be the person who on 3 November in the evening when they're announcing the votes, and let's say Colonel Sangari comes up short, you're the one who didn't vote. Go and vote, folks. Go and vote. It's important. You have one voice. You have one choice between capitalism and socialism. That's it. That's all you get. So you need to vote. And I'm hope that, again, with the blessings of God and the support of the voters, that I'll be able to represent them. I'm the guy who's going to reach across the aisle. The current incumbent's not going to be able to do that. She has shown that by the fact that she didn't even show up during the last inauguration. So send a guy who's willing to work with the other party, who has done it in the past and will continue to do it in the future. And I'm here doing my best, and I offer all my ability and talents to the individuals in the 9th Congressional District.
Well, Helen, family, thank you again for taking the time this evening to share a little bit about your life to the listeners and viewers. I can't, again, thank you enough for your sacrifice for our country. And so I want to thank you and salute the entire Sangari family. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a special episode of New Paradigm. Tomorrow's election day. Go out and vote. Be safe, and good night.
The founders of this nation did not create a land of opportunity by growing government. They did it by reducing its powers, particularly when the government of the King of England did not provide them with representation. The U in the United States originally was not capitalized, but the S in states was, meaning that the states were like semi-sovereign nations. Governance was more local and solutions were often more interpersonal rather than political. We have moved into an age where politicians act like agents of a larger special interest rather than representatives of the people, and as a result, liberty has been compromised. With your help, Lieutenant Colonel Sangari can fight this corruption and end this Middle Eastern non-democratic mentality of keeping an official in his or her seat for life, or replacing them by their own hand, pick subservient, and finally start focusing on collective American effort on actually representing the needs of all the constituents in the 9th Congressional District, including Democratic and Independent Americans, for our benefit, and not to advance the position of a single political party or person in our America again, advocating for honoring and empowering the American dream for all. Vote Sangari, honoring and empowering the American dream.
I am Sargis Sangari, and I approve this message.